Welcome, everyone. Here we are live from the Emerald City in Seattle, Washington, the UFO, Bigfoot, and paranormal hotspot of the Pacific Northwest. Coming to you directly, listening in around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Sunday. I am your host, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer, occupying the captain's chair tonight for SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including all of our listeners on the digital side at Revolution Radio. And don't forget, you can always find out our archives for free on youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us all a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store, and catching up on the Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and so much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by donating to Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. And tonight we have a special opportunity for us, as we have been able to convince our good buddy Peter Davenport from the National UFO Reporting Center to extend his stay tonight a little bit on Spaced Out Sunday, and I think we're going to be able to have Peter for the entire hour of the first hour of the show and get into some of the real details of what's going on out there as far as UFO sighting reports around the world and across the United States. And we are real happy to be able to do that with Peter. For every once in a while, we don't get an opportunity to provide Peter with a platform that gives him a little bit more time to be able to spend with us. So tonight would be one of those special nights. Peter, are you there?
I'm here. Looking forward to this, Michael. This is a rare luxury.
That's right. It's just going to be you and me tonight. We get to relax, kick back, and you being out in the desert wilds of eastern Washington, and me up here in the northwestern part of the state in Seattle. We'll be able to at least compare our days across the Cascades and how it went today. But out here in Seattle was just a perfect, gorgeous day, not too hot, not too cold or anything, and the sun was shining. How about out in eastern Washington?
You've just about described the day I had. It was a beautiful day, almost devoid of clouds and cool, and went out for 2 walks, actually. It was so enticing a day. Oh,
I know you're fond of those meditative walks. You and Grant Cameron are two of my esteemed clients that seem to really enjoy those long walks to relax and to think. And you've been doing that for years.
Yeah, since I was a kid. I didn't realize that about Grant.
Yes. He's the same.
Another similarity between him and me.
He's the same way. He literally will get up in the morning, he tells me, and just walk to get his cup of coffee rather than make it in his own apartment there or his own house. He loves McDonald's. We used to go to McDonald's a lot when we were on the road together. And literally it takes me, and you're the same way, Peter. You're not a fast walker. You're just a purposeful walker. You get into a zone, and it's amazing. And literally walking for 45 minutes to an hour for yourself is nothing.
Yeah. It's just a sort of a wake-up exercise. An hour's walk is just a pleasurable thing for me.
Yeah.
And I think, in part, Michael, it's due to the crazy hours I lead running the hotline, the UFO hotline, because I spend a lot of my day just sitting at my desk, either doing email or answering the telephone or one thing or another. Keeps me tied to this desk for way too many hours a day. And walk is a pleasant diversion from all of that. So I enjoy a good long walk.
I would imagine that you have some special shoes that you get used to when you do that. Are these running or jogging shoes, or are they just basically Oxfords that you spend most time in?
They're just running shoes. Although I used to run for an hour or two a day, but the 70-year-old body now says I probably shouldn't be doing that. So I get the same benefit from walking that I feel I used to get from running.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's matter of fact, it's a lot less onerous on those joints for sure. You don't see too many older long distance runners out there, but you see a lot of walkers, that's for sure, especially during this COVID time for sure.
I really enjoy exercise. If it were a choice between rich food or a lot of exercise, I think I'd take a lot of exercise.
Oh, wow. Good for you. Well, and I would imagine it does give you time to think and to kind of like organize your thoughts as all of this stuff is thrown at you. As the director of the National UFO Reporting Center, do you find it hard to walk away from those strange phone calls that you get, or do you end up taking it with you and mulling them over all the time, having to deal with people's strange calls? That would be very interesting to deal with.
Yeah, well, fortunately, I can report that the prank calls that started just 3 years ago, August 27th, 2017, have tapered off dramatically, and thank heavens for that. It's probably preserved my life to a degree, but they seem to have tapered off beginning a month or two ago, and what a relief that is. I don't know if I've ever talked about the prank calls that were flooding in here on this program, but at one time, on a typical day, between 80% and 95% of the incoming calls on the UFO hotline were prank calls, and oftentimes obnoxious prank calls. Young people, and I'm saddened to have to report that some of these young people are terribly foul-mouthed, would just call and babble nonsense. But fortunately, that seems to have gone away. And that's done a great deal towards improving my attitude towards myself and towards those young people, most of all towards my job as director of the UFO Center.
Oh, that's
getting very frustrating.
Oh, that is good news to hear. I mean, my gosh. With all the phone calls that you would be taking on a daily and nightly basis, and then to have to deal with that was crazy. I'm so glad that people have gotten over that short fad. Hopefully, obviously, you could have done without it completely.
Yeah, it was very annoying. But fortunately, it's gone away, largely gone away. It's not dropped to zero yet, but I remember 3 years ago, September 9th, I think it was, of 2017, I took over 326 calls in one day, and probably 95 to 98% of them were prank calls.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
And And of course, people, if they haven't called 206-722-3000, the National UFO Center hotline, they don't realize that it's you answering the phone every time.
Pretty much. Yep. I'm the one that answers it. There have been a few occasions when I've turned it over to somebody else, but very rarely. And so it was an annoyance devoting all this time to benefit the American people and Canadians and just anybody, for that matter, who's interested in UFOs, only to be badly abused by these young kids.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it's gone away. Anyway.
Well, I'll bet there has, since we've talked, it's been 2 weeks since we talked, I think, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, I've got some really interesting reports, and this week was sort of a watershed week for me because I finally got caught up with hundreds, actually thousands of accumulated UFO sighting eyewitness reports. And not only that, but I had enough time to ferret out a few illustrations, which are now posted to a website, ufocenter.com. But I've gotten a lot of really, really interesting reports. So interesting, Michael, that I'm beginning to wonder whether we're approaching some kind of resolution to the UFO phenomenon, some kind of discovery as to what we're dealing with.
Well, it's funny that you should say that because, I have been feeling that with the reports coming in from our military and government personnel getting interested, the Senate, Select Committee on Intelligence and the new UAP X task force, that's being set up. It's almost as if the powers that be or somebody is anticipating some major revelation to happen. And indeed, you're kind of saying that the phenomena itself seems to be corresponding to that.
Yeah, it certainly does. And the reason I say that is in past years, and of course, as many people who know me know, I've been doing this since 1994. 26 years ago, this month, I hooked up the hotline to my home telephone, took it over from Robert J. Gribble, the founder of this operation, back in 1974.
Wow.
And the reason I mention this is the nature of the report seems to have changed. It used to be the case that most of the reports were just distant lights in the sky. Could be planets, could be meteors, but nothing more illustrative than just a light in the sky, which after all doesn't give a person much information. But as our audience will hear tonight, I'm getting much more detailed reports of bizarre craft. So it's not just lights in the sky, but triangles and discs and all sorts of palpable craft. That has me a little bit concerned. And that's what leads me to the conclusion that we may be approaching some kind of, as I say, resolution to the phenomenon.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got plenty of time, you and I, tonight. About 10 minutes before the bottom of the hour, but we're going to go all the way to the top of the hour at least here. So take your time, and we'll listen to some of these.
Yeah, the first report I'd like to touch on, I may have mentioned 2 weeks ago, but only in passing because I hadn't received the information and the video evidence yet. But on the night, Saturday night, the 18th of July at 11:45 p.m. East Coast time, Ohio time, Lakeview, Ohio. A gentleman was outside with his wife admiring the night sky. I think they were looking for the Neowise comet, and they were prepared to do some photography. But as they were just admiring the sky, his attention was drawn to the west by a blindingly bright light, and not only bright, but distinctly blue. And his attention was riveted on it. He had the presence of mind to get his camera out. I think it was a cell phone camera. And he got some wonderful video. And I can describe it briefly, but people might enjoy seeing the actual video on my website. It's an object that appears to be somewhere between a quarter and a half the perceived diameter of a full moon in the night sky, meandering all over the sky, but you can tell by the quality of light that it's extremely bright. And it doesn't go in a straight line. That's why I say it was meandering more than just flying in a straight line. And what it was, I have no idea. Clearly not a satellite, clearly not an aircraft, clearly not a drone, not a blimp, not a helium-filled balloon. And therefore I asked, what could it possibly have been? And if it had been going in a straight line, I would perhaps default to an explanation of the International Space Station. But the space station doesn't make turns. It's going in a straight line.
Well, and it doesn't seem to be a blinding blue light either. I mean, that's quite dramatic, you know.
That's true, although people describe lights differently. You can have 5 people describe the same light and it'll be 5 different descriptions. So you have to be careful. I've learned over time from experience. You can't accept everything that a person tells you over the telephone at face value. And let it be said, they have different perceptual characteristics to their vision. So there can be a lot of variation in an eyewitness account. But I invite people who might be interested in seeing the actual evidence to go to UFOcenter.com and look at the report for Lakeview, Ohio, which is posted or linked to right on our website, right on the home page.
All right.
It's a pretty dramatic bit of evidence. Dramatic bit of video, the likes of which I haven't seen for a good long time.
Oh, wonderful! Well, it's good that you can have people send in their video clips, and I would imagine that Christian Stepien, your webmaster, is pretty diligent in putting those videos up there for you.
He's pretty good when he has the time to do it, but this is the first video or first photographic evidence I've been able to post for several weeks, actually perhaps a month or more. So I'm very pleased to have some very good video to post for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, wonderful.
It was a good case. And a second case I'd like to share with our audience, Michael, is very similar to the report I just described from Lakeview, Ohio. But this one comes from the 8th of August at 9:25 p.m. Texas time, Central Daylight Time, Highlands Village. And a party described essentially the same thing as what was described in Lakeview, Ohio. I'll quote from his report. He said, a report from Lakeview, Ohio that I'm reading my own typing here. The witness describes a very bright light roaming around the nighttime sky. 2 witnesses, no video yet, however, to share. So, very similar report. What's that? 20 days, almost 3 weeks after the Lakeview, Ohio report, we have another similar report of a bright light meandering around the night sky.
Yeah. Oh my. And I'm assuming that whenever you see a drone nowadays, even if it's a small drone, they're pretty loud. I would imagine that they could determine if this was a drone meandering, if there was any noise, but it doesn't sound like they're reporting any noise for you.
No, they reported no noise, although one of my reports that I'll get to in a minute or two reports people, the 4 witnesses, all of whom submitted excellent reports. They're from College Park, Maryland, report having heard an object before they saw it, but it clearly was not a drone. In fact, I'll share this with our audience while I'm touching on it. College Park, Maryland, Tuesday, August 18th, so 5 days ago, at 10:20 p.m. East Coast time, 4 adults were outside admiring the night sky, stargazing, when they heard a very strange sound that was approaching them, I believe, from the west. And they looked up to see what it was that was generating such an odd sound, only to be greeted by a large disk, perhaps the size of a full moon in the night sky. A large disc-shaped craft pass overhead at what they all described as a moderately high speed. And all those 4 reports from the 4 witnesses are now posted to our website. Again, for College Park, Maryland, August 18th at 10:20 p.m. A wonderful, wonderful collection of reports. I usually am talking to one person over the hotline. When somebody calls, it's usually only one person. But what I try to do is convince them that not only they should submit a report, but any one of the other witnesses we would like to hear from as well. So this is one of the rare circumstances in which all 4 witnesses who were present for the sighting have submitted high-quality reports. So we were very lucky with that one.
Wow, that's that's quite stunning. A large disc-shaped craft, and four people are seeing the same thing. Or did you get to speak with more than one of them yourself?
I heard one of them in the background as I was talking to the party who called, a young woman.
Oh, they weren't citing this while they were talking to you, were they?
No, they had just seen it seconds or minutes earlier.
Okay.
They knew the hotline number and they called.
Yeah.
But that's very unusual to get 4 people to take the time and go to the trouble of all 4 of them submitting separate reports. And for the benefit of our audience tonight, I usually ask that if there are multiple witnesses, not only that we get reports, but that they are prepared independently of one another so that one witness doesn't influence another witness.
Yeah, good point. And the same thing, I suppose, with any pictures or drawings that they can come up with as well. That would be obviously
Absolutely
interesting to see as well. Well, listen, Peter, we are now at the bottom of the hour here already. We're going to take our 6-minute break and come back with another segment for you. So if you can hang on with me, we'll be right back.
Yep.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans. It's John Resnick, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from dance to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you addicted to the woo? Good. Me too. This is Dave Scott, and you can woo it up with me every Monday through Friday, starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, for 3 hours of great entertainment in the subjects you love. UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, intuition. Yes, we hit it all 5 days a week. Look for us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, my friends, we own the night.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Well, welcome back. I am your host, the paranormal lawyer, Michael W. Hall. Thanks for joining me back here, and we welcome everyone listening in on terrestrial affiliates, WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, and UPRN 107.7 in New Orleans. And on the digital side, we are very proud to be on Revolution Radio. And don't forget, you can always check out our archives for free at youtube.com/spaced out radio. Just hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store, and catching up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and so much more. And we have a wonderful show tonight with Peter Davenport from the National UFO Reporting Center. Peter is my full-time guest tonight, and we are talking about sighting reports all around the United States, including, we were just talking about Lakeview, Ohio, Highland Village, I believe it's maybe in Texas, and in College Park, Maryland. We've just kind of touched base a little bit about what's happening out there. So, Peter, we're back.
Good. I'm here.
Yeah.
And the one thing I've noticed in the 25 years that you and I have known one another, Michael, we never are at a loss for words when it comes to talking about paranormal subjects. And
yeah. You remember,
particularly the UFO phenomenon.
You remember those late night hotel room conversations that we got to share with one another on the road, going to various conferences and stuff. Those are some of my fondest memories, Peter. Just you and your double queen bed, and mine in my queen bed next to you, just sitting there, probably well past midnight, because the conferences usually don't get out till about then. And it's amazing, all the different background information that I would glean from you over the years.
That's the thing for every one of these reports that we share with our audience tonight, and traditionally do every week. There's a lot of background material that you don't have time to include. Maybe before we sign off tonight, I'll talk about a few past reports from the distant past, from the 1930s and decades ago.
Yeah.
And share with our audience a few of my insights into these sightings.
Oh, that would...
There's another case I'd like to share with our audience. This comes from the 15th... the date escapes me. I think August 15th, I was right. Comes from Burnett, Texas. Burnett, Texas is about 50 miles northwest of Austin. And I mention this one, Michael, because it's not only is it very odd, very strange, it falls in the category of these recent reports where they're not just distant lights in the sky, but actual palpable craft. But also the two witnesses managed to get high-quality photographs of the object, photographs taken through what I suspect are high-quality telescopes. They're both as amateur astronomers. But just about an hour after midnight on the 15th of August, this is just a little over a week ago, two gentlemen were out with their telescopes planning to do some astral photography, nighttime photography of the heavens, of the night sky, when their attention was drawn to a flashing object in the night sky, and they turned their telescopes on it, and they got a most interesting photograph. You can see the photo on my website. But what the object looked like to them through their telescope and through the camera was generally the shape of a man's shoe with two flashing lights on the toe and two flashing lights on the heel. And here's where it gets really interesting, Michael. That object hovered in the nighttime sky above Burnett, Texas, for an estimated 2 to 3 hours. It didn't leave the field of view of their telescopes, which were trained on it. And they have no idea what they were looking at. I have no idea what they were looking at. But it is an odd object, and people can see the photograph on our website at ufocenter.com. They can read the reports, two very nice reports submitted by both witnesses. What that object is, I'm open to suggestions. If anybody can identify it, please get in touch with me via email and let me know what you think.
Oh my goodness. I am actually at your homepage right now, Peter, and would that be the photograph that looks like the only, well, actually, it's the only one at the very four lights on the top there?
Yeah. And that object hovered for 2 to 3 hours over Burnett, Texas, Michael. Now, the only thing I can possibly imagine is that it was one of these high-altitude, helium-filled balloons that I think I've talked about on this program before, and other programs as well.
Yeah.
But it seems very unusual that a balloon of that nature would remain almost stationary, not move at all, given what the winds aloft are.
Oh, yeah. And this is, I'm just trying to interpret this photograph for the viewers who aren't able to go to the website right now, but this is quite a distinct object. Obviously, this is being photographed through a telescope, so it's quite prominent. And it does look like, for instance, if you were looking up from the bottom of a running shoe, and you had 2 points of light, 2 balls of light on the heel, and 2 balls of light on the toe of the shoe, looking up from the bottom. That's kind of what it would look like there. Very interesting. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this is a remarkable report in the sense that, like the report from College Park, I received one report from each of the witnesses, and they're excellent reports. I think we linked to those 2 reports from our homepage, so our listeners might enjoy reading the reports and looking at the photograph.
Yeah.
And as you say, it looks like a man's shoe, and in the report, I think the witnesses point out that the 2 lights on the toe would flash and then extinguish, and then 2 lights on the heel would flash.
Oh my!
And that went on for 2 hours.
Yeah, and what are the? I mean, the odds are astronomical that 2 astrophotographers would have their gear out there and be able to catch something like this, because obviously most astroastronomers that I talk to, Dave Mason being one of them on our UFO I-Team group, says that it's very difficult to catch anomalous objects with a telescope because they don't sit there long enough for them to do that. And this is one that was there for 2 hours. That's remarkable. Even if it was, for instance, a balloon, I know that they constantly have to follow the trajectory of anything that's floating, in the atmosphere. And so obviously this thing was not doing that. It kind of doesn't lend itself to being a balloon.
Yep. I'm of the same opinion, and I guess it's not absolutely impossible that a balloon would sit motionless for 2 hours, but it seems to me 2 hours or longer, perhaps as long as 3 hours, but it seems very unusual to me.
Yeah, and it's quite. I mean, of course, you don't know from their perspective how far away this object is, but it's not just a dot in the night sky. This is quite up close as far as their coverage on their lens. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent case. Although, in all fairness, I have to report to our audience tonight that after I posted that photograph, I got an email from a gentleman who's a photo analyst, and he's seen some anomalies to this. He alleges to have seen some anomalies in this photo, but the photo is enlarged from the original, in which the object is a very small image.
Yeah.
But I will report. I'm going to have another party analyze it, and I will report to our Spaced Out Radio audience next week or the week after what we find. But it looks like a very good, high-quality photograph, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I didn't talk to both the witnesses, but the one witness I did talk to struck me as being quite sane, quite sober, sober-minded, and I had no question about him on the basis of the telephone conversation I'd had with him.
And obviously it sounds to me that he did not want to be anonymous in his report, right?
No, absolutely not. I have contact information for the gentleman.
Yeah.
Both gentlemen. So.
Okay.
That's a very interesting report.
Wonderful.
And I have another one here. I think I've talked about this phenomenon in the past, but reports are pouring in for some strange reason from Horry County, South Carolina, which is the easternmost point of South Carolina as it projects out into the Atlantic. But I just recently received, I think this is just yesterday, received a report from a young man who saw 3 lights in the ocean, above the ocean horizon to the southeast from North Myrtle Beach. And they were all yellow. And I mention this case principally because I have received, God only knows how many hundreds of reports from this area of South Carolina about yellow lights. And I've done everything in my power to get the press interested in this phenomenon. A few of the local regional newspapers have followed up on it and done articles encouraging people to report to them if they see them. But I have no idea what these lights are, Michael, and I have no idea, moreover, why they're so concentrated in this particular small area of South Carolina. It's very unusual.
You know, this is very timely, this report that you're telling us about tonight, because the latest episode of Luis Elizondo's Unidentified with the TTSA folks highlight some specific UFO reports out in this specific area of off the Atlantic coast there of South Carolina. Matter of fact, very similar orange orbs that seem to just float above the water for a long period of time. And by the way, this is the same general area that the USS Theodore Roosevelt incident reported having spherical UFOs. I don't know if you remember this one. There was a spherical UFO that seemed to be transparent and had a square inside the sphere that zipped by the canopy of an FA-18 fighter jet off of the Theodore Roosevelt, and it was so close that it triggered a major incident, and that would have been 2015, after the Nimitz report on the West Coast on 2004. And you're right, there seems to be something that's ongoing out there in the Atlantic Ocean off of Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, that's my distinct impression as well, and I may have overlooked mentioning the date of this incident that I was talking about a moment ago. This is from the 19th of August, so just 4 days ago.
Wow.
I think that makes it Wednesday of this past week at 21:33 hours East Coast time, and it continued for 3 minutes. And the witness who submitted the report points out that the lights first moved from north to south, from southeast to northeast, and then reversed their course as witnessed by the witnesses. And there were 3 adult witnesses in this case. So not only were they odd colored, yellow is a color that you should not see on a terrestrial aircraft, of course. The only color lights that you can see on a terrestrial aircraft at night are red, green, and white. So a yellow light immediately has my attention. But not only was it a yellow light, but it was maneuvering in a complex fashion.
Yeah.
So this, too, is a compelling report.
Well, and just coincidentally, of course, one of my clients is the UAPX expedition group with Kevin Day and Gary Voorhees, P.J. Hughes, and those guys, the veterans from the USS Nimitz. They were finding out that coincidentally, the Nimitz UFOs, the Tic Tacs, were sighted during a 10-day period that there was whale migrations going on off the west coast of San Diego. You wonder if there is anything like that happening in the Atlantic right now, that these lights, whether they're craft or whatever, might be interested in. Wonder why they're out there doing these maneuvers.
Yeah. We could conjecture all night about it. I have no idea, but it's the type of thing that goes back to what I said earlier in the program. My impression is we're approaching some kind of conclusion to the UFO phenomenon, some kind of, call it a resolution. I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah.
But it has changed. Its nature has changed dramatically in the last year or two.
Well, and maybe you can add some historical perspective then by telling us a little bit about that one 1963 report you're talking about that before we get off the air here at the top of the hour. That'd be kind of a fun thing to go over if you want as well.
Yeah, October 1936, from the mid-30s, Mike.
Ah, the 30s. Oh, my gosh.
This is a gentleman who, in 1936, was 18 years of age, and he was working at a CCC camp up in Oklipna, Alaska. Oklipna is a former Indian village. It's just probably not more than 20 miles to the east of Anchorage, just south of Turnagain Arm. And he writes that in his report that they used to work 6 days a week. The only day off they had was Sundays. And he was in the habit, with a good friend of his from the camp, of hitchhiking into Anchorage, Alaska, and spending the night. And then they would travel back to their camp on Sunday afternoon. Well, on this particular October night in 1936, the two of them completed their work on Saturday, and they headed out for Anchorage, hitchhiking. There were not many cars on the road, but there were a lot of trucks, logging trucks and government trucks of one kind or another, and they'd usually pick up young people who were hitchhiking. Well, they got a goodly distance away from camp, and they hadn't caught a ride, and they were getting a little worried because it was getting cold, and they weren't really adequately dressed for Alaska cold. So they were concerned, and they were relieved to see a single light coming from the west, from Anchorage. At this point, they had decided that they would take any ride just to warm up, even if it took them back to camp. And they were intrigued by the light because it was a strange blue-green color. And then they realized that they thought it was a headlight in a truck. Then they realized it was above ground level. And they thought it might be an aircraft, but there was no sound. And then as it got closer, they realized that it was a very bizarre-looking craft. It was the shape of a flat iron, the bottom of a flat iron, and it was embedded in blue-green light. And it was so alarming to these two young lads that the older of the two suggested that they had better protect themselves and bury themselves in a snowbank beside the road, which they did. And they were so frightened by what they had seen that when the object finally departed the area, they jogged back to the camp. They didn't want to deal with that object anymore, and they weren't going to risk encountering it on their way into Anchorage. You can see that report. I think it should still be posted to our website, UFOcenter.com, for October 1936.
Wow. I mean, that's quite dramatic when two young people choose to dive into a snowbank in the middle of October in Alaska rather than to encounter some kind of a light blue light that's hovering above the ground coming towards them. They obviously must have... I wonder if they had... of course, you probably don't know the details, but I wonder if they ever had any missing time in that incident as well.
You know, I've wondered exactly the same, Michael, because I wonder whether they consciously went into that snowbank or whether they might have been placed there by their abductors to protect them until they awakened.
Whoa, good thought.
I've thought our minds run in similar channels.
Yeah. Oh, that is fascinating. Of course, back in 1936, you would never have heard a UFO story, let alone something like this. It's one of those stories I would imagine they didn't tell a lot of people about.
Yeah, that's for sure. And this gentleman called me in September of 1990, I believe it was. I remember his call. He called me from North Seattle, and I discovered from his wife that he was a deacon of his church, and she volunteered the fact that he would be about the last person she would expect to fabricate a story like this. And it's a doozy. But couldn't have been an airplane, because the only kind of engines they had for airplanes in 1936 were radial piston engines. And they're very loud, of course. But this object was totally silent, he emphasized.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Well, these are interesting times here. When indeed we've got historical events that are sometimes even more shocking than some of the latest stuff that we are still just learning about through the National UFO Reporting Center and MUFON and places like that. So before we get out of here, let's make sure that we reiterate the hotline phone number and the address, how people can get a hold of you in case they want to send a nominal donation your way to help you do this, continue on with what you do.
Well, thank you for allowing me to do that. The hotline, the UFO hotline number, which has been the same for 46 years, is area code 206-722-3000. 206-722-3000. Our website address is ufocenter.com, and if people would like to share a few bucks with us to pay the light bill, they can send a check to the National UFO Reporting Center, P.O. Box 700, Davenport, Washington, Davenport, Davenport, Washington, and the zip code is 99122.
Fantastic. Well, Peter, gosh, it's just amazing to me that a whole hour goes by so quickly when we talk with you. Thank you again for extending your stay tonight here for Spaced Out Sunday. This has been really nice and relaxing for me to be able to just sit back and hear what's going on from the bunker out there in eastern Washington.
Yeah. Well, it's always good to appear with you, Michael, and always enjoy what you have to say on this subject. In just a short period of time, you've made yourself a seasoned contributor to the UFO phenomenon. You have a remarkable talent for organizing people and stimulating them and entertaining them with your radio program.
Well, thank you for that. That's coming from you. That's quite a compliment. And we will be doing this again next week, if not sooner. But thank you for your time tonight, and I will let you go. And you enjoy your week out there in super sunny eastern Washington.
Thank you, Michael. It's always a pleasure to work with you, and thanks for the airtime.
All righty. Thanks again.
Good night.
Good night.
Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday, right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
this man had a deep dark hole upon. People came from miles around to throw their trash can in to see how deep the hole was and listen for its end. Then the day that fate lay, they forced me off of the land. They paid me off and sent me down under with the land. They hit metal and covered it up so never could be found. So no one will ever know what's deep down below the ground. Yippee-yi-yi, yippee-yi-oh. There's no bottom to so if you chance to find yourself.
Hey, I want to remind everyone that Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. You can find out more information and music at bumblefoot.com. A special thanks to everyone listening in at home, in your cars, at work, and in the chat rooms, and wherever you are around the world. Remember, the show is copyrighted by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thanks for sharing your evening with us tonight. Because tonight, together, my friends, we own that night. Good night. We'll talk to you next Sunday on Spaced Out Sunday.